Today we're putting Roland's RP107 and Yamaha's YDP145 through their paces with side-by-side comparisons of their piano tone, action, and speaker performance, along with a quick discussion of all of their other specs and a few hidden features most people probably miss. You're not going to want to miss this video, so let's get started right away. So if you're a parent or a student and you're looking for an affordable 88-note digital piano, you generally have two options, which is either you're looking at a used acoustic upright piano, or increasingly popular option is of course going with the home digital piano. And two of the biggest names in digital pianos, and really have been for the last 40 years, are Roland and Yamaha. So how is someone like yourself at home to choose between pianos of such similar prices and reputation? Well, as always, we're going to introduce the models and all of the critical specs, and then we're going to dive a little deeper and give you my take on the sound and action playing experience. And finally, do an apples to apples speaker test to finish things off. So let's start off with the Yamaha YDP. This unit costs around $1,200 USD at the time we filmed it. But we've got links below so that you can check the best and latest prices down in the description. Now, the YDP, which not surprisingly stands for Yamaha Digital Piano, also carries the Arius branding, and this is Yamaha's entry point into the digital piano lineup. They update them every 3 or 4 years or so, and the 145 is a 2023 release. Some of the more notable updates on this model were the introduction of the CFX tone engine with 192 notes worth of polyphony and some very nice cabinetry upgrades. The piano features a pair of 8-watt speakers with porting out both the front as well as the back for better high-frequency performance. They use their GHS Action, which is the entry point into their weighted actions, and something I'm going to talk a little bit more about later in the review. The piano has 10 sounds that give a pretty decent variety of alternate tones, and they offer a companion app where you can access the onboard songs, some basic piano editing, and generally kind of remote control the piano. Now that is a wired connection because this is lacking in a Bluetooth wireless radio. The piano is available in 3 colors, and the cabinet has some pretty high quality veneer, and generally speaking, since we assembled this ourselves, a robust construction. And that, as always, includes the triple pedal board below. Now, over to the Roland RP107. Now, this is essentially priced the same as the Yamaha, coming in also around $1,200 USD at the time we filmed this. Again, check the links below if you are watching this later and you need a link to a local provider or the best price. Now, the RP series is Roland's most affordable home digital piano series, with the 107 at the entry point of the grid, but sharing several key components with higher models like the RP701, namely this PHA-4 Action and the BMC chip-driven Supernatural piano tone engine with 256 notes worth of polyphony. It offers up to 15 tones, but not really. More on the hidden features later. And unlike the Yamaha, a wireless Bluetooth connection for both companion apps as well as inbound Bluetooth audio. The Roland uses a durable but admittedly more commercial looking veneer than the Yamaha and is only available in black at this time. It also includes the triple pedal system. Honestly speaking, 192 versus 256 notes worth of polyphony, or 10 versus 15 onboard sounds, is not really a reason, in my view, to buy or not buy either one of these. By far and away, the biggest factors here are the character and depth of the two pianos' acoustic piano tone engines and how those sounds respond, and of course, the model's choice of action. So let's spend a few minutes exploring the sound and touch of both, and we're going to start with the Yamaha. The first thing I notice is that there is a much improved depth and quality to the sample that's being used. Yamaha doesn't specify whether this is individual notes sampled, but what's pretty clear to my ears is that kind of the two-dimensionality of the previous CFS engine that I had referenced in many videos before, there's a maturity, there's a full tone that's been captured here. Now, no digital piano is perfect, and obviously I know that with this price point you're going to have compromises, and in this case it's just how flat the response tends to feel here. Now, you quickly realize that there's a pretty narrow range dynamically and tonally, as though Yamaha's kind of put some safety bumpers on there, that it doesn't want you leaving too far away, or maybe more to the point, so that a parent can kind of set a volume setting, walk away, and know that the kid is not going to blow your neighbors or the living room away with too much sound. So whether I'm playing what should be producing, you know, a mezzo piano or a fortissimo, the actual volume output is pretty narrow. And while there is some tonal variation there, it's pretty muted. Now, I am definitely not trying to make the case that the things I'm observing here make this a deal breaker for entry-level players. Far from it. What I am saying is that I think this keeps it from being a potential practice piano for a more advanced player, despite that core tone being well executed on. Now, the action that they've selected here is also, in my view, a bit of a limiting factor from an experienced player's perspective. It's really easy to point to the lack of a triple sensor or escapement, but honestly those specs are not going to have a big influence on how the key actually feels, and it is the feel here which becomes the limiting factor. The key bed on the GHS has always felt a little shallow to me, and the up force on it is on the light side, and a lot of people will describe this as kind of having a bit of a spongy feel or a spongy impression that can actually cause, at least in my experience, some overplaying and premature fatigue to a more advanced or heavier player. Now, the key surfaces on here are high gloss, which in some conditions, as I've said in other videos, can kind of create a lack of glide or create some extra tackiness between your fingers in those keys. So overall, those without a lot of playing experience would be hard-pressed to find any major faults with this action, particularly if you aren't frequenting other acoustic pianos or higher-level digitals, which is likely why Yamaha hasn't felt the need to upgrade the action to one of their other more professionally geared keybeds that you find in the higher YDP or COP models. Now, let's switch to the Roland and discuss what we hear there. When it comes to the Roland, we have a piano tone which is very multi-layered. It's very dynamic, meaning that the character of the tone and how it behaves has, to my ear, a greater variety when played softly versus loudly. Where my critique of the Yamaha is that it kind of lacked some of that dimensionality in its tonal range. For some playing styles, it's the opposite true of the Roland. I've actually had to do a little bit of tweaking on some Rolands, including this one, to get really the ideal setting, to kind of rein in how colorful and brassy that top dynamic range can be for those who are kind of new to playing. I've found for myself, actually, that a key touch setting of between 65 and 70 with a brilliant setting of +1 or 2 on the main concert piano gives me exactly the right kind of taper on that top end that I'm looking for without losing any of the variety in the lower 2/3 of the volume ranges. And generally, there's lots of great subtlety and really fun, playful nuances that the Supernatural engine produces here. Now, the top end treble particularly captures the Steinway D's trademark ambience and color, in my view, really, really well. Just a little wider, a little more lush and thick than what you get over here. Now, moving to the action, the PHA-4 is equipped with both escapement and a triple sensor. But like the Yamaha, it's the feel that makes the difference here. I find that it provides a more robust pushback to your inputs with a snappier return and a solid bottom than what the GHS does, giving you the sense that it will respond to a much wider range of inputs from the player. Now, one quirk of the Roland I'm not a great fan of is that when you have the headphone and speakers simultaneously on, the speaker EQ gets applied to the headphones, and that signal is far brighter than what most are going to enjoy. Having a discrete audio routing for the headphone adds complexity to the main board, I get it, so I understand why we can't have all nice things at this price point, and that EQ Roland has applied to the speakers does give the non-headphone playing experience a lot more clarity and detailed sonic picture than what the Yamaha speakers give you. Kind of creates this illusion that the Roland speakers are actually a lot more powerful. They're not really more powerful. I think they've just been maximized more effectively. However, when you're listening to that audio stream right into your headphones, it's pretty extreme. Now, both of these instruments offer the same basic functions that are becoming pretty commonplace. Transpose, onboard metronome, basic recording, layered in split modes, and some basic adjustments to the playing experience, such as touch curve, ambience, and some form of EQ, and I mentioned some of those that I had already tweaked on the Roland. However, the Roland has two big features which do not appear anywhere on their spec page, and you only get it when you connect it with the Roland Piano app. You suddenly go from 15 sounds to over 300, and you also get a basic but a really enjoyable auto arranger engine. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with what that is, basically the piano plays a band behind you, and harmonically it follows the chording in your left hand. So if you've ever wanted to play along with a drummer, bassist, and guitar player, and as piano players, who among us have not wanted that? Well, here's your chance. So here are my final conclusions with these two instruments. The Yamaha does two things, in my opinion, better than the Roland. It's cabinetry and the quality of the core piano tone. However, to get those factors in a total package that would appeal to an experienced player, you really need to jump up one or two models up in the range to get an action and speaker performance that will actually satisfy a more discerning set of ears and fingers. So while I enjoyed listening to the Yamaha, I actually found that playing the Roland was way more satisfying. The dynamic response was more realistic, the tonal variety was excellent, and the feel of the key action gave me something that more closely resembled what I was used to, which is how a real piano feels and responds. My negatives on the Roland were the lack of color options on the cabinet and that shared EQ of the headphone and speaker when they were both on. Moving up to the $1,500 price range in both brands solves many of the issues that I've mentioned. But if $1,000 or close to it is the right price point for you, there's my take on these two industry favorites. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've enjoyed the video, please remember to subscribe and click the notification bell. Check the links in the description below, and I hope that we will see you back for more. My name is Stu Harrison, and this has been Merriam Pianos on YouTube. We'll see you again soon.